Alright, how's everybody doing? This is Mike. Decided to do this little video as I'm riding through Baltimore. This is another video about Baltimore, but not necessarily me walking through any neighborhoods or anything, or showing you how run down some of the neighborhoods are where people live, but to kind of address something that's come up post-riot, which is going to be probably one of the main political topics, and that's the whole controversy over the governor of Maryland, Governor Hogan, rejecting Maryland's request for more funds for education, yet spending $30 million to build a prison. Of course, when you hear about these things, or when people discuss these things, a lot of key information is left out. I just had one of the more fruitful conversations with my ex, who, by the way, works for the Baltimore City school system. And she confirmed what I believe was the case all along, or based on what I've read, is that the money that was rejected, not because the governor doesn't see the need to invest in education, but the money's not there. He had to put the money in a pension. That's so that the people that will be retiring will have money in their pension fund so that they can retire. And the $30 million for the prison was due to the fact that they needed to build a separate prison for the juveniles so they wouldn't be housed in the same prison as the adults, which I think is actually a good thing, because too many bad things can happen, in my personal opinion, when you have juveniles in the same, locked up with grown men who are also incarcerated. Now, in addition to that, you know, there's also the problem that they wouldn't need to build a prison if they didn't have so many people committing crimes. And whether people want to acknowledge this or not, there's a lot of crimes committed in Baltimore, a lot. I mean, you saw, what you saw on the videos on the news was just the tip of the iceberg. Those that are close to this area, or who spend any significant time in this area, are well aware of a lot of the crime that goes on here. I mean, and you have kids, these are kids out breaking the law. You wonder, where is the parental guidance? But that's a huge part of the problem. 90% of kids born in Baltimore are born out of wedlock. That's right, I said over 90% of the kids in Baltimore black kids are born out of wedlock. And that's a problem. And then and to make matters worse, a lot of these kids are raised not by a single parent, but by an aunt, a grandparent, a cousin. I mean, it's bad. And they end up in the foster system, where people just see them as a dollar sign, so they get paid for having these foster kids, and they just let them run amok because they're getting a check. And then sadly, you have, even when they're with a parent, sometimes it's kind of the same thing, because you can get welfare and food stamps. In addition to that, if your child is diagnosed with a learning disability, that's more money. So if you have 5 kids and 4 of them have a learning disability, you get something like an extra $350 per child because of that learning disability. And Baltimore City, according to my ex who works in the school system, they're the second highest paid in the state of Maryland. Now, keep in mind that in the state of Maryland, you have the wealthiest county in the nation, Montgomery County, and you have Howard County, which is not far behind that. Howard County is number 1 in the school system. And as far as their performance, Montgomery County is number 2. Both Montgomery County and Howard County are in the top 5 in the country for their school systems. Yet Baltimore pay their teachers on par with their teachers, even better than Montgomery County, but they don't produce anywhere near the same result. Now, this came out of the mouth of someone that works in the school system, so this is not my opinion. So there's this narrative where we believe that to solve the education crisis within America, urban America in particular, and our inner city schools, is to just throw more money at it. And then there's no real accountability on how that money's being spent or what's being done, and there's no real results. A lot of money's been thrown at students at this problem, and it hasn't yielded the results that people had promised. I know for a fact in the District of Columbia, they were spending over $4,000 per student, somewhere like $4,358, somewhere in that area, and you were just not getting the results that you would expect for spending that much money. So you have to ask, the question is, what is the problem, and how do you fix the problem? Because there is a correlation between the broken education systems and the prison system, whether we want to acknowledge that or not. There is, because if you're uneducated or undereducated, then you're not employable, and for the most part, because you have no skills. So at best, you're going to work a minimum wage job, and you're going to be making minimum wage pretty much for your entire adult life. So your only hope for a raise is for them to raise the minimum wage, which in my opinion is not the solution. Because small business owners who employ over the majority of people in this country are not going to be able to afford to pay people $12, $13, $15 an hour for these entry-level jobs. That's just a reality. Do I think people should make enough to live off of? Of course I do. But you have to bring more to the table. And if your school system is broken and you're in a desperate situation, then usually bad things happen. And we see this narrative time and again throughout the inner cities in this country. Matter of fact, you see it in America, you see it in cities like Toronto, even in Montreal, right? You know, so you see this throughout North America, where black people are caught in these seemingly endless cycles of poverty and just frustration, because you're in a system where you don't feel you can thrive and succeed. And the problem stems from, starts off with poor leadership, both in the home and in the political arena. And the reason I say in the home is because I can still point to black students come from just despicable backgrounds, and their atmosphere is just terrible. But they find a way to thrive and succeed. Every year, I read about some black student or black child somewhere, either in Chicago, Detroit, even Baltimore, that came up through all types of nonsense, but yet they managed to have a 4.0 GPA and a high SAT score, and they're going to go to pretty much their pick of colleges in the United States, entirely free. It's a culture of death that we have to free ourselves from. Now, I know I started out talking about the money promised to that was denied to the city of Baltimore, and I know I went off on a little tangent, but this is all relative, because the problem is that they're gonna spin this as if, hey, these kids don't have any choices because we don't have any money, and that's a lie. The problem is, we don't make good use of the money that we have. And the monies that are spent are mismanaged. And then you have school systems where people are making pretty decent money. Teachers are not as poorly paid as some people make them out to be, at least not here in Baltimore. So they're making pretty good money, but they're not yielding the same results. And it's not all on the teachers. There's a culture in the home that is not conducive to thriving and succeeding. And that stems from generations and years of being in a system that was meant to enslave rather than empower people. And I'm talking about the state-sanctioned welfare system that has devastated the black community. Just absolutely devastated. Now, understand, black people do not have a monopoly on welfare. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm talking about the effects that President Johnson's Great New Society has had on our communities. I've seen it up close and personal. So my thought process is such that this thing is broken. It's not working. We need to get rid of it. Am I saying we need to let people starve? No, it's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there has to be a way to get more out of people so they don't end up generations of people living off of welfare. Welfare doesn't hurt our pockets as much as you think. Matter of fact, it's pennies on the dollar. So it's not a financial issue. You get rid of welfare tomorrow, you're not gonna get some huge check from the government, refund check from the government based on the money it saved. I'm sorry, that's not gonna happen. But if we got rid of it, it would force people. If it went away tomorrow, I should say, it would force people to survive. It would force them to survive. But you know what? You can't just cut it cold turkey. What has to happen is that there has to be a commitment to building the school systems and from the government perspective, staying out of the lives of families, letting parents be parents. Let them raise their kids. And we need to find a way to get more out of the school system so the kids can get the education they need, so they can develop the skills they need, so that they can have a decent life for themselves. That's not going to happen in a school system where you have students that are reading 2, 3, even 4 grade levels below their grade level. That you're graduating seniors out of high school who can barely read on the 5th grade level. What are they going to do? Where are they going to work? They're not going to work. They're going to keep doing what they're doing, which is robbing, stealing, and drug dealing. Jail. Parole, release, repeat. And it becomes a cycle. 3 strikes, done. So now those kids they happen to make in the meanwhile, are gonna have to go live their life without their father. That mother's gonna be without that man who she made the baby with. And then you're gonna have just more chaos. It's a vicious cycle. What I think needs to happen is Baltimore needs some tough love, and I think the current governor is going to provide just that, and I think that's a good thing. And I believe that ultimately, as this goes on, you're gonna start to see some changes in Baltimore that are not gonna feel good from the beginning, but at the end of the day might ultimately benefit those who suffered the most. There's a climate in this city, let me tell you, that is not good. And if things don't change and change soon, this city could explode again. I'm going to tell you that right now. There's already reports of police officers preparing to leave the police force in droves because of the mayor, who I believe personally is way in over her head. I never felt comfortable with her from the beginning of being competent enough to run a city. I'm just being honest here. I never felt that. And I think this point is being proven even as we speak. And that's been one of the problems with a lot of the inner cities, is that many of them have had the same type of leadership for the last 50 years and have yielded the same results. The only exception that I can think of, to be honest with you, is Atlanta with Maynard Jackson and Andrew Young, who I think were pretty decent mayors that actually, doesn't matter if they're Democrats and I'm a Republican, that's irrelevant. I may not have agreed with everything that they did, but they did enough to make Atlanta go from just some sleepy town, well, not sleepy town, but just another city in the South like Birmingham or Montgomery or Memphis to a major city. Atlanta is a major city. And even though they're suffering like everyone else from the economic decline in the economy, they're still a major city, and there's a lot that's going on there. But you look at other cities, Detroit, Cleveland, Baltimore, St. Louis, Los Angeles, Houston, New Orleans. I mean, you see the same thing. So what I'm hoping is we can get some positive changes, someone that can get in. Just, I'm hoping people will open up their eyes a little bit and vote for someone outside the box. I mean, even if it's a Democrat, I've seen some decent Democratic candidates that could certainly do a better job than the ones in place now. But they don't have the charisma or the backing of the Negro pastors, so they never see the light of day. And speaking of the Negro pastors, that sounds like another video, because they've been dipping their hands into politics for a while, and they're just as responsible for this mess that we see in the city as anyone, if you ask me. They love to play politics. They love the grandstand. They love the allure of the camera, but they can't do what they allegedly were called to do, and that's to preach God's word in truth and without compromise. But as I said, that's another video. All right, folks, that's enough for me. As I get closer to DC, I'm going to go ahead and go on in, take me a nap before I go to work tonight. So y'all stay blessed and stay safe. Take care.